The emergency alert blared through the corridors of the International Space Station Aurora, its harsh tone cutting through the usual hum of life support systems. Dr. Marina Patel sprinted through the zero-gravity environment, her magnetic boots clicking against the metal floor as she made her way to the observation deck. Behind her, she could hear the chittering vocals of the station's Centauri crew members, their bioluminescent skin pulsing with anxiety. "All personnel, maintain distance from Airlock 3, Commander Nasir's voice echoed through the comms. Unknown entity detected on approach vector. Marina's heart raced as she reached the observation window. Outside, against the backdrop of Earth's blue marble, floated what appeared to be a crystalline structure roughly the size of a small shuttle. Its surface reflected rainbow patterns across the station's hull, but what caught Marina's attention was the deep fracture running through its core. "It's wounded," she breathed, pressing her hand against the reinforced glass. The creature, and she was certain it was a living being, pulsed weakly with internal light. Dr. Patel, step away from the window, ordered First Officer ZXTL, his compound eyes reflecting the emergency lights. "We cannot risk contamination." Marina turned to face the insectoid officer, her jaw set firmly. "With all due respect, that being out there is dying. As the station's xenobiologist, I'm qualified to help." "You are human," ZXTL clicked his mandibles dismissively. "Your species has barely achieved interstellar travel. This entity is beyond your comprehension." The creature outside emitted a pulse of light so brilliant it temporarily blinded the observation deck sensors. Marina shielded her eyes, but not before she saw patterns within the light, complex fractals that spoke of intelligence and pain. "Commander Nasir," Marina keyed her comm, requesting permission to suit up and attempt first contact. "The entity is trying to communicate." There was a long pause filled only by the hum of the station and the nervous movements of the Centauri crew. Finally, Nasir's voice crackled through, "Permission granted, but only because you're the only xenobiologist we've got. Suit up. You've got 10 minutes. Marina was already moving before he finished speaking. In the prep room, she quickly donned her EVA suit, running through safety checks with practiced efficiency. Her hands trembled slightly as she secured her helmet, but her mind was clear. Years of studying alien biology had prepared her for this moment. "Dr. Patel," a soft voice called from the doorway. She turned to see Dr. Rook, the station's physicist, his pale blue skin glowing faintly in the dim light. "I've analyzed the entity's energy signature. It appears to be a silicon-based life form, but unlike anything in our database. Be careful, its core temperature is highly unstable." Marina nodded, grateful for the information. "Thank you, Rook. Any suggestions for approach?" "Its fracture pattern suggests impact damage, possibly from a micrometeorite. The crystalline structure is similar to diamond, but with properties that defy our current understanding of physics." He paused, mandibles twitching thoughtfully. Perhaps that's why the others are so afraid. They don't understand it either." The airlock cycle seemed to take forever. As Marina waited for the pressure to equalize, she watched the creature through the small window. Its light pulses had grown weaker, more erratic. She knew she had to act fast. Finally, the outer door opened, and Marina pushed off gently, using her suit's thrusters to approach the entity. Up close, its beauty was even more stunning, layers of crystalline lattices that shifted and moved like liquid glass, creating patterns that seemed to respond to her presence. "Hello," she said softly, though she knew sound wouldn't carry in space. Instead, she raised her hand, palm out, in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. The creature's light flickered, and suddenly Marina felt a sensation in her mind, not quite words, but impressions of pain, fear, and desperate hope. She activated her suit's external lights, matching the rhythm of the creature's pulses. Slowly, carefully, she moved closer to examine the fracture. The break wasn't clean, it spiderwebbed through the entity's core, disrupting what appeared to be vital energy flows. Behind her, she could hear the Centauri crew arguing over the comms about the dangers of her actions. But Marina had spent her entire career preparing for moments like this, when understanding alien life could mean the difference between conflict and connection. Using her suit's specialized tools, she began to analyze the fracture pattern, all while maintaining a steady rhythm with her lights. The creature's responses grew stronger, more focused. It was trying to help her understand. "I'm going to try something," she announced over the comm. "The fracture is disrupting its energy matrix. If we can stabilize the flow." She pulled out a small device from her tool belt, an experimental quantum stabilizer she'd been developing for crystal growth studies. "Dr. Patel, this is a direct order to return to the station," Commander Nasir's voice crackled with authority. But Marina had already made her decision. She activated the stabilizer, adjusting its frequency to match the creature's natural resonance. The effect was immediate, the erratic pulses of light steadied, and the fracture lines began to glow with a soft, healing light. The creature's consciousness touched her mind again, this time with feelings of gratitude and relief. Marina smiled inside her helmet, tears floating in zero gravity. "You're welcome," she whispered, knowing that sometimes the greatest discoveries came not from fear, but from the simple willingness to help. The quarantine bay hummed with energy as the crystalline entity floated in a carefully calibrated containment field. Marina stood before the transparent barrier, her tablet filled with readings that defied conventional biology. Behind her, Commander Nasir paced nervously, his footsteps echoing in the tense silence. "The Council is demanding answers," he said, running a hand through his graying hair. "They want to know what it is, where it came from, and most importantly, if it poses a threat." Marina didn't take her eyes off the creature, which had begun forming intricate geometric patterns within its crystalline structure. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a particularly complex formation. "It's not random. These are mathematical sequences, it's trying to communicate." Dr. Rook floated down from his observation post, his bioluminescent skin pulsing with excitement. "The Fibonacci sequence," he noted, compound eyes reflecting the creature's glow. "And here, prime numbers. Incredible." The creature responded to their attention with a burst of colored light that rippled through its newly stabilized core. Since Marina's emergency repair, its energy patterns had grown stronger, more coherent. But not everyone on the station shared her fascination. First Officer ZXTL chittered from the doorway, mandibles clicking in agitation. "The Centauri High Command has expressed grave concerns. This entity's energy signature matches nothing in our databases spanning 12,000 years of space exploration. Maybe that's exactly why we should study it," Marina argued, turning to face the insectoid officer. "Think about it, we're witnessing something completely new to both human and Centauri science. This could be the discovery of the century." As if in response to her words, the creature began projecting complex holographic images into the containment field. Star maps appeared, showing configurations Marina had never seen before. Dr. Rook quickly began recording the display, his fingers dancing across his datapad. "These star positions," he muttered, "they're from beyond the outer rim. No known species has ventured that far." Marina felt a familiar touch in her mind, the creature's unique way of communicating. But this time, instead of pain or fear, she sensed purpose. Understanding began to dawn. "It's not just showing us where it's from," she said slowly. "It's warning us about something." The holographic display shifted, showing what appeared to be a massive crystalline structure, perhaps a station or a ship, breaking apart. Other crystal beings, similar to their guest but much larger, scattered across space. Commander Nasir stepped closer, his expression grave. "A refugee? Or a scout?" Before Marina could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. The creature's energy readings had suddenly spiked, its light pulsing in rapid, urgent patterns. Marina rushed to her console, fingers flying over the controls. Its core temperature is rising, she announced. The containment field is struggling to compensate. Shut it down, ZXTL demanded. Eject it into space before it destroys the station. No. Marina's voice cut through the panic. It's not attacking, it's responding to something. Look. The creature's holographic display had changed again, showing a massive energy wave approaching from deep space. Dr. Rook's instruments began picking up corresponding readings. She's right, he confirmed, mandibles trembling. There's some kind of quantum disturbance heading this way. The entity detected it before our sensors could. Marina pressed her hand against the containment field barrier. The creature responded, its light synchronizing with her heartbeat. It's trying to help us, she insisted. We need to trust it. Commander Nasir looked between Marina and the increasingly agitated Zentari officer. Years of space service had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now, they were telling him to listen to his xenobiologist. Dr. Patel, he said finally, what do you need? Marina's mind raced with possibilities. The quantum stabilizer I used during first contact, we can modify it to work with the station's deflector array. If the creature is willing to help, its crystalline structure might be able to amplify our shields. Might? ZXTL's voice rose in pitch. You want to risk the entire station on a theory? Sometimes the greatest discoveries require a leap of faith, Marina replied, already moving to collect her equipment. Dr. Rook, I'll need your help calibrating the frequencies. As they worked, the creature's light display grew more urgent. Through their mental connection, Marina could sense both concern and determination. Whatever was coming, this being was committed to helping them survive it. Ready, she announced, connecting the final circuits. Commander, on your order. Nasir looked at the approaching energy wave on the main display, then at the crystalline entity pulsing with offered aid. In all his years of command, he'd never faced a decision quite like this. Do it, he ordered. Marina activated the modified deflector array. The creature's light flared brilliantly, its crystalline structure resonating with the station's systems. As the mysterious energy wave struck, the combined technologies created a shield unlike anything they'd seen before, a lattice of light and energy that turned the deadly force harmlessly aside. In the aftermath, as the station's crew stared in awe at the readings, Marina felt a new sensation from the creature, not just gratitude or relief, but a sense of belonging. Perhaps this was more than just a chance encounter. Perhaps it was the beginning of something much bigger than any of them had imagined. The Aurora's observation lounge had become an impromptu command center in the days following the energy wave incident. Holographic displays filled the air with data streams and star charts, while the crystalline entity's shifting patterns cast dancing lights across the gathered faces of both human and Zentari crew members. Marina stood before the assembled group, her usual lab coat replaced by a formal uniform. The dark circles under her eyes betrayed countless hours of research, but her voice remained steady as she presented their findings. The entity, which has been conveying that we can call it Lumina, has shared more about its origins, she began, gesturing to a holographic map of deep space. They come from a civilization in the Cassiopeia sector, far beyond any of our previous exploration routes. Dr. Rook manipulated the display, zooming in on a particular region. Their home system contains a dying star. From what we've decoded of Lumina's communications, their entire species evolved to harness and store stellar energy. They're not just crystalline beings, they're living solar batteries. The revelation sent murmurs through the assembled crew. Commander Nasir leaned forward, his weathered face thoughtful. That explains their interest in our sector. Our star is stable, young. Not just that, Marina added, her expression grave. Lumina's people aren't refugees, they're guardians. The energy wave we encountered? It was just the beginning. Their civilization detected a series of quantum anomalies that threaten this entire sector of space. First Officer ZXTL, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly rose. Then we must inform the Zentari High Command immediately. If these threats are real. That's the problem, Marina interrupted, sharing a meaningful look with Dr. Rook. According to Lumina, the Zentari already know about this. Or at least, their leadership does. The room erupted in chaos. Zentari crew members chittered in agitation while human officers demanded explanations. Commander Nasir's sharp whistle cut through the noise. Explain, he ordered. Marina activated another holographic display, this one showing complex energy patterns. Lumina's people have been sending warnings to various species for decades. The Zentari High Command received their first message 15 years ago but classified the information. They've been studying the quantum anomalies in secret, trying to find a way to weaponize them. ZXTL's mandibles clacked in agitation. These are dangerous accusations, Dr. Patel. You have no proof. Actually, we do, Dr. Rook interjected, his usual gentle demeanor hardened by conviction. He projected a new set of data streams. These are encrypted transmissions I decoded from our own communication array. The Zentari science vessel that visited last month? They weren't conducting routine maintenance. They were measuring the anomaly's effects. The crystalline entity, Lumina, pulsed with urgent patterns, its light forming complex geometric warnings. Marina felt its consciousness touch her mind, sharing images of devastating consequences if the anomalies were mishandled. Lumina's people have spent millennia learning to stabilize these quantum disturbances, she explained. They're not weapons, they're wounds in spacetime itself. If they're not properly contained, they could tear apart the fabric of our sector of space. Commander Nasir stood, his authority filling the room. If what you're saying is true, we're sitting on an interstellar powder keg. Not just the anomalies themselves, but the political fallout when this becomes public. When, not if, Marina stressed. Lumina's people are coming. They've dispatched a delegation to help contain the anomalies, but they won't stand by while any species tries to exploit this phenomenon. They're giving us a chance to handle this diplomatically first. The commander turned to ZXTL, whose compound eyes reflected the swirling holographic displays. First Officer, where do your loyalties lie? With the truth, or with those who would hide it? The Zentari officer's antennae twitched as all eyes turned to him. After a long moment, he spoke. I serve the principles of science and exploration that founded our alliance. If my superiors have betrayed those principles. He straightened to his full height. I must stand with the truth. Marina felt a wave of relief, echoed by Lumina's brightening glow. But their challenges were far from over. The entity shared another vision, massive crystalline ships approaching, carrying beings of immense power and ancient wisdom. The next few days would determine whether their arrival would herald a new era of cooperation, or spark an interstellar conflict. We need to prepare, she announced, pulling up communication protocols. Lumina can help us establish contact with the approaching delegation, but we'll need to coordinate with Earth's governments, and quickly. Once the Zentari High Command realizes we know the truth. They'll try to silence us, Nasir finished grimly. Dr. Patel, you've brought us into dangerous waters, but I believe they're waters we needed to navigate eventually. What's our next move? Marina looked at the assembled crew, humans and Zentari united by shared purpose, then at Lumina, whose light pulsed with determination and hope. We tell the truth, she said firmly. To everyone. And we show the galaxy that humanity is ready to help face this threat, not exploit it. The crystalline entity's glow intensified, casting rainbow patterns across the station's walls like a promise of dawn after the darkest night. The real challenge was just beginning. The Aurora shuddered as another gravitational wave hit its shields. Marina braced herself against the laboratory wall, watching as Lumina's crystalline form pulsed rapidly, helping to maintain the station's defenses. Outside the reinforced windows, space itself seemed to ripple with distortions. 3 Centauri warships approaching from Sector 7, Lieutenant Chen's voice crackled over the comm, they're demanding immediate surrender and the release of the crystalline entity. Commander Nasir's response was firm. Send them the same message, we have evidence of their attempted cover-up. If they fire on an Earth-registered station, they'll trigger an interstellar diplomatic crisis. Marina shared a worried look with Dr. Rook, whose bioluminescence had dimmed with stress. The quantum anomalies were growing stronger, exactly as Lumina had warned. The Centauri High Command's attempts to weaponize them had accelerated their expansion. How long until the Crystal Fleet arrives? She asked, checking the readings on her tablet. 6 hours, Rook replied, adjusting the containment field protecting Lumina. If we can hold out that long. Through their mental connection, Marina felt Lumina's concern, not for itself, but for the station's crew. The entity had been working tirelessly to help maintain their shields, its own energy reserves depleting with each gravitational wave. The laboratory door hissed open, and First Officer ZXTL hurried in, his exoskeletal plates clicking with agitation. The High Command has branded me a traitor, he announced. They're claiming we've been compromised by the entity's psychic influence. That's ridiculous, Marina protested. Lumina has only ever helped us understand the truth. Another impact rocked the station. Warning lights flashed as systems strained under the combined assault of both the quantum anomalies and the Centauri blockade. Hull breach on Deck C. Lieutenant Chen reported. Emergency force fields holding, but we're losing power to that section. Commander Nasir's voice remained steady despite the chaos. Dr. Patel, we need options. Can Lumina's people get here any faster? Marina pressed her hand against the containment field, connecting with the crystalline being. Images flowed between them, vast ships of living crystal, their crews desperately pushing their vessels to maximum speed. But there was something else, a solution hidden in the quantum physics that humans had barely begun to understand. Lumina has an idea, she said, excitement cutting through her exhaustion. Dr. Rook, remember how the entity amplified our shields during the first energy wave? What if we could do that on a larger scale? The physicist's compound eyes widened. You're suggesting we create a quantum resonance field? The power requirements would be enormous. We can reroute power from non-essential systems, ZXTL offered, his antennae twitching thoughtfully. Including life support in the evacuated sections. Marina nodded. And Lumina can serve as a focal point, creating a harmonic frequency that matches its people's ships. It might help them find us faster through the quantum distortions. Might? Nasir questioned over the comm. It's our best chance, Marina insisted. But. She hesitated, looking at the gently pulsing entity. It would put tremendous strain on Lumina. The process could be dangerous. Through their connection, she felt the creature's immediate response, determination, courage, and something that felt remarkably like affection. Lumina had grown to care for them just as they had for it. The entity is willing, she reported. More than willing. It's ready to begin now. Another impact rattled the station. Multiple hull breaches. Chen called out. We're losing structural integrity in sections 5 through 8. Do it, Nasir ordered. Whatever you're going to do it now. Marina's fingers flew across the control panel, while Dr. Rook and ZXTL worked to reroute power. Lumina's glow intensified, its crystalline structure resonating at frequencies that made the air itself vibrate. Warning alerts blared as the station's systems redlined. Marina felt sweat trickle down her back as she worked to maintain the delicate balance. Too much power and they could tear the station apart. Too little and the quantum resonance would collapse. Through it all, Lumina's presence in her mind remained strong, guiding her adjustments. The entity's light grew brighter and brighter, filling the laboratory with rainbow refractions. The very fabric of space around the station began to shimmer with quantum possibilities. Energy spike detected. Chen shouted over the comm, "Something's coming through." Marina held her breath as the space before the station seemed to fold in on itself. For a moment, reality bent and twisted, and then they were there. 3 massive crystalline ships, each one a city-sized lattice of living crystal, emerged from the quantum distortion. The effect was immediate. The Zentari warships backed away as the newcomers took up defensive positions around the Aurora. The quantum anomalies that had been battering the station calmed, soothed by the advanced technology of Lumina's people. But in the laboratory, Marina's triumph turned to horror as she realized the cost. Lumina's glow was fading, its once brilliant structure growing dim. "No, no, no," she whispered, pressing both hands against the containment field. "Stay with us. Please." The entity's consciousness touched her mind one last time, sharing not despair but satisfaction. It had completed its mission. It had brought its people to help. And most importantly, it had shown 2 species that they could work together, trust each other, and face the unknown with courage. As Marina fought back tears, a new signal came through the station's comm system, a harmonious crystalline chord that seemed to resonate with the very atoms of her being. The Crystal Fleet had made contact. The real work of saving their sector of space was just beginning. But thanks to one brave entity's sacrifice, they would face it together. 1 month after the arrival of the Crystal Fleet, the Aurora's observation deck had been transformed. Where once there were standard viewing windows, crystalline lattices now grew from the walls, their surfaces displaying real-time data about the quantum anomalies being healed throughout the sector. At the center of it all stood a memorial, Lumina's crystalline form, its structure now transparent but forever preserved in a field of pure energy. Marina stood before it, her reflection ghosting across its faceted surface. The entity's final gift hadn't just been its sacrifice to bring help, it had fundamentally changed their understanding of the universe. "The quantum stabilization is proceeding ahead of schedule," Dr. Rook announced, floating into the room. His bioluminescent skin pulsed in harmony with the crystalline technologies that now enhanced the station. "The Crystal Fleet's methods are extraordinary. They're asking for you in the main conference room," Commander Nasir added, joining them. The past month had added more gray to his hair, but his eyes were bright with purpose. "The Zentari High Council is ready to begin negotiations for reparations." Marina nodded, but took a moment longer before the memorial. The Crystal Fleet's arrival had forced the Zentari leadership to acknowledge their attempted cover-up. The resulting political shake-up had led to sweeping reforms and a renewed commitment to interspecies cooperation. "You would have enjoyed this," she whispered to Lumina's form. "All these species working together, learning from each other." As if in response, the crystal structure sparkled with interior light. Marina blinked, sure she was imagining things. "Dr. Patel," Dr. Rook's voice was urgent. "The readings." Marina rushed to his console, her heart racing as she studied the data. "That's impossible. These energy patterns, they're exactly like." The memorial crystal pulsed again, stronger this time. Patterns of light danced through its structure, patterns they had come to recognize as language. "Get the Crystal Fleet representatives here now," Marina ordered, already reaching for her instruments. "And someone find First Officer ZXTL." Within minutes, the observation deck was crowded with humans, Zentari, and the towering crystalline forms of the fleet's leaders. Their surfaces rippled with excited light as they examined the memorial. The highest-ranking crystal being, who had introduced itself as Meridian, extended a limb of pure energy toward Lumina's form. The 2 structures resonated, filling the room with harmonious frequencies. "It's not just a crystal," Marina breathed, reading the translated patterns. Lumina encoded its entire consciousness into the structure. "It's been watching us this whole time," waiting until we were ready. Commander Nasir stepped forward. Ready for what? The answer came as the memorial crystal began to transform. Its transparent surface became opalescent, then brilliant with internal light. Gradually, impossibly, Lumina's consciousness re-emerged, its pattern stronger and clearer than ever before. "It's evolved," Dr. Rook whispered, his scientific detachment forgotten in wonder. The sacrifice, the preservation, it was all part of the transformation process. First Officer ZXTL chittered in amazement. Like our own metamorphosis cycles, but on a quantum level. Extraordinary. Through their restored mental connection, Marina felt Lumina's joy and satisfaction. The entity had known this was possible, had trusted them to protect and understand its transitional form. Now it could serve as a permanent bridge between species, its evolved consciousness able to facilitate communication and understanding in ways previously unimaginable. The Crystal Fleet representatives resonated with approval. This was why they had chosen to reveal themselves to humanity first. They had seen the potential for growth, for acceptance, for finding light in the darkness of space. So what happens now? Commander Nasir asked, looking between the assembled species. Marina felt Lumina's response before the translation appeared. Now we build something new. Together. In the weeks that followed, the Aurora became more than just a space station. It transformed into a hub of interstellar cooperation, where humans, Centauri, and crystal beings worked side by side to heal the quantum damage and establish new protocols for space exploration. The technologies they developed together would reshape their understanding of the universe. But more importantly, they had learned the greatest lesson of all, that trust, given freely and returned in kind, could bridge any gulf between species. That sacrifice made in service of others could lead to rebirth. That in the vast darkness of space, the light of consciousness, in all its forms, was the most precious resource of all. Marina often found herself on the observation deck, watching the crystalline lattices pulse with data and life. Lumina's consciousness would touch her mind, sharing visions of possibilities yet to come. The entity had evolved beyond its original form, but its core remained the same, a being that had seen the best in humanity and chosen to trust in their potential. And in that trust, they had all found something greater than themselves, a future where the light of understanding shone across the stars, bridging the gaps between all sentient beings, one connection at a time.